Allied sector. As per the NSSO 68th round of survey, 16.44 million people are engaged in activities of farming and of animals, mixed farming, fishing, and aquaculture. Now, animal husbandry is the branch of science that deals with the practice of breeding, farming, and care of farm animals such as cattle, dogs, sheep, horses by humans for advantages. Now, animal husbandry refers to livestock raising and selective breeding. It is a branch of agriculture. Now, India is home to 535.78 million livestock population, which has a potential to become sustainable livelihood for 90.2 million agricultural households. As the government is exploring means to raise income on sustainable basis, livestock sector offers one such bright spot. Now, Department of Animal Husbandry conducts livestock census every 5 years since 1919-20. 1919 to 1920. The 20th livestock census data was released recently, which stated that India has the world's largest livestock population. Of this population, cattle were the largest group with 35.94%. Goat was a close second at 27.9%. Then it was followed by buffalo at 20.45%, and then sheep at 15.87%. This would be the data for cattle, buffalo, goat, sheep, pig, maithun, yak, horses and ponies, mules, donkey, camel. Also, we see that Uttar Pradesh has the largest livestock population, followed by Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh. However, we see that there is a decrease in the livestock population in Uttar Pradesh and Rajasthan, whereas Madhya Pradesh and other states have seen an increase, except for Gujarat, which has also seen a decrease. Moving on, the total livestock population is 535.78 million in the country, showing an increase of 4.6% over livestock census of 2021. Now, total bovine population, that is cattle, buffalo, maithun, yak, is 302.79 million in 2019, which shows an increase of 1% over the previous census. Now, the total number of cattle in the country is 192.49 million in 2019, showing an increase of 0.8% over the previous census. Now, the female cattle, that is cows population, is 145.12 million, increased by 18% over the previous census of 2012. Now, exotic crossbreed, indigenous, and nondescript cattle population in the country is 50.42 million and 142.11 million respectively. So, indigenous is 142 and exotic is 50.42 million. These data are in million. Now, the indigenous nondescript female cattle population has increased by 10% in 2019 as compared to the previous census. The population of total exotic crossbreed cattle has increased by 26.9% in 2019 as compared to the previous census. There is a decline of 6% in the total indigenous, both descript and non-descript cattle population over the previous census. However, the pace of decline of indigenous cattle population during 2012 to 19 is much less as compared to 2007 to 12, which was about 9%. So it has decreased. The rate of decrease has decreased. Now, the total buffaloes in the country are 109.85 million, showing an increase of about 1% over the previous census. The total milch animal, that is in milk and dry, in cows and buffaloes, is 125.34 million, an increase of 6% over the previous census. The total sheep in the country is 74.26 million in 2019, increase of 14.1% over the previous census. The goat population in the country is 2019 is 148.88 million, showing an increase of 10.1% over the previous census. Now, the total pigs in the country is 9.06 million in the current census, declined by 12.03 over the previous census. Total mithun in the country is 3.9 lakh in 2019, increased by 30% over the previous census. Now, total yak in the country is 58,000 in 2019, decreased by 24.67% over the previous census. Though total horses and ponies in the country is about 3.4 lakh in 2019, decreased by 45.6% over the previous census. The total population of mules in the country is 84,000 in 2019, decreased by 57.1% over the previous census. Now, the total population of donkeys in the country is 1.2 lakhs in 2019, decreased by 61.23% over the previous census. The total camel population in the country is 2.5 lakhs in 2019, decreased by 37.1% over the previous census. Now, the total poultry in the country stands at 851.81 million in 2019, which has shown an increase of 16.8% over the previous census. The total backyard poultry in the country is at 317.07 million in 2019, increased by 45.8% over the previous census. Now, role of livestock in Indian agriculture are as follows: sustainable agricultural development, food security, and input functions. Now, for sustainable agricultural development, the sector provides gainful employment to a large number of youngsters from rural areas, and thus livestock as an elite sector can provide gainful employment, making farming a lucrative career opportunity. Now, development in livestock sector can form a basis for the development of food processing sector. Climate-based agro-diversification will be the natural outcome of livestock-related industry relating to food security, protein and mineral-rich nutritious diet due to milk, meat, egg, fish, etc. Now, livestock are the best insurance against vagaries of nature like drought, famines, other natural disasters, thus never leaving a farmer with no resource to afford basic food needs. Input functions. Now, livestock perform input functions like providing draw power, like bulls and oxen, dung, urine, etc. in crop production. However, livestock sector in India is marked with deficiencies like maize is a vital element of poultry feed, but its availability at reasonable cost is a major problem for the poultry sector. Now, pathogenic and emerging disease like foot and mouth disease, bird flu, and swine flu often cause major losses both in domestic market and international trade. There is omnious need for realistic national marketing intelligence to bridge the gap between supply and demand of livestock and livestock products. To fulfill the demand of sustainable and safe production, there is a massive demand for trained and skilled manpower in the livestock sector. There is non availability of superior quality breeding in livestock. Livestock extension services are almost absent. Only 5.1% of the farm households were able to access any information on animal husbandry against 40.4% for crop farming. Bulk of investment for livestock development comes from state government, and there is hardly any private sector investment in animal husbandry. Now, microbial contamination, antibiotic residues, and adulteration in milk, meat, and animal feed is rampant. Moving on to National Livestock Mission. National Livestock Mission launched in the financial year of 2014-15 to ensure quantitative and qualitative improvement in livestock production system and capacity building of all stakeholders. The scheme is being implemented as a sub scheme of White Revolution, Rashtriya Pashudhan Vikas Yojana. Now, National Livestock Mission has four submissions, which is submission on livestock development, submission on pig development, submission of feed and fodder development, and submission on skill development. So, submission on livestock development includes activities to address the concerns for overall development of livestock species, including poultry, other than cattle and buffalo, with holistic approach. Now, submission on pig development in northeastern region. The submission will strive to forge synergies of research and development organizations through appropriate interventions as may be required for holistic development of pigs in northeastern region, including genetic improvement, health cover, and post-harvest operations. Now, submission on feed and fodder development. The submission is designed to address problems of scarcity of animal feeds and fodder resource to give a push to livestock sector, making it competitive enterprise for India, and also to harness its export potential. Now, the subscheme will especially focus on increasing both production and productivity of fodder and feed through adoption of improved and appropriate technologies best suited to specific agroclimatic regions in both arable and non-arable areas. Now, submission on skill development, technology, and transfer extension. The submission will provide a platform to develop, adopt, and adapt technologies, including frontline field demonstrations in collaboration with farmers, researchers, and extension workers, etc., whenever it is not possible to achieve this through existing arrangements. Now, National Animal Disease Control Program aims to control livestock disease, the foot and mouth disease, and brucellosis by 2025 and eradicate these by 2030. Now, Animal Husbandry Infrastructure Development Fund, worth rupees 15,000 crore, was announced under the Atmanirbhar Bharat package. It aims to increase milk and meat production processing capacity and product diversification, providing greater access to market, export promotion, and entrepreneurship, etc. It will facilitate investment in establishment of infrastructure for dairy and meat processing and value addition infrastructure, and establishment of animal feed plants in private sector. Eligible beneficiaries of this scheme include farmer producer organizations, that is FPO, MSMEs, not for profit companies, private companies, and individual entrepreneurs. Now, minimum 10% margin money is to be contributed by beneficiary, while the balance 90% would be loan component to be made available by scheduled banks. Now, Government of India will provide 3% interest subvention to eligible beneficiaries. Government will also set up a credit guarantee fund of rupees 750 crores to be managed by NABARD. Moving on to dairy. Now, India ranks first in milk production, accounting for about 20% of the world's production. In 1970s, Operation Flood was started in India's largest dairy development program and a landmark project of India's National Dairy Development Board, with objective of increasing milk production in India and setting up farmers cooperatives. As a result, the milk production has risen steadily, with all India per capita availability of milk at around 375 grams per day. The process has since been termed as White Revolution. Now, White Revolution covers various other schemes like Dairy Entrepreneurship Development Scheme, Livestock Census, National Livestock Mission, and Scheme for Fodder and Vaccination, etc. Moving on to National Program for Bovine Breeding and Dairy Development. Now, the National Program for Bovine Breeding and Dairy Development has been formulated by merging four ongoing schemes of Department of Animal Husbandry, Dairy and Fishery in the dairy sector. These are National Project for Cattle and Buffalo Breeding, Intensive Dairy Development Program, Strengthening Infrastructure of Quality and Clean Milk Production, and Assistance to Cooperatives. This has been done to integrate milk production and dairying activities in a scientific and holistic manner for attaining higher levels of milk production and productivity to meet the increasing demand for milk in the country. Now, National Program for Bovine Breeding, it aims to arrange artificial insemination services at farmers' doorsteps. It aims to bring all breedable females under organized breeding through artificial insemination or natural services using germ plasma plasm of high genetic merits to conserve, develop, and proliferate selected indigenous bovine breeds of high socio-economic importance, to provide quality breeding inputs in breeding tracts of important indigenous breeds so as to prevent the breeds from deterioration and extinction. Now, National Program for Dairy Development, to create, strengthen, and infrastructure for production of quality milk, including cold chain infrastructure linking farmer to the consumer, to create and strengthen the infrastructure for procurement, processing, and marketing of milk and milk products. It also aims to create training infrastructures for training of dairy farmers. It also aims to strengthen dairy cooperative societies, producer companies at village level. It also wants to increase milk production by providing technical input services like cattle feed, manure mixture, etc. Also to assist rehabilitation of potentially viable milk federation and union. Now, Rashtriya Gokul Mission, it aims to conserve and increase the population of indigenous bovine breeds, which are Gil, Sahiwal, Rathi, Deoni, Red Sindhi, and Tharpakar. Other objectives of the mission include increasing milk production and productivity, upgradation of nondescript cattle using elite indigenous breeds, and distribution of disease-free high genetic merits bulls for natural services. Now, National Mission on Bovine Productivity. National Mission for Bovine Productivity will be implemented as a part of Rashtriya Gokul Mission under the umbrella scheme of White Revolution, that is Rashtriya Pashudhan Vikas Yojana. The objective of the mission are to enhance milk production and productivity of bovine population, increase trade of livestock and its product, e-market for bovine germplasm, and to double farmers' income by 2022. Now, the mission has four components, which are Pashudhan Sanjeevani, e-Pashudhan Heart Portal, advanced breeding technologies like in vitro fertilizations, IVF, and multiple ovulation embryo transplant, that is MOIFT, and National Bovine Genomic Center for Indigenous Breeds. Now, notable parts of the White Revolution are National Kamdhenu Breeding Center. It has been established under the Rashtriya Gokul Mission for the development and conservation of indigenous breeds in a scientific manner. Now, Rashtriya Kamdhenu Ayog 2019, it is an executive body set up in the Department of Animal Husbandry and Dairy. The Ayog aims to enhance cow productivity through research in organic manure, biogas, etc. It also wants to bring about genetic upgradation of cow resources, cow welfare, and cow protection laws. Also commits in its ambit. So Kamdev Nu Ayog 2019. Moving on to Pashudhan Sanjeevani, it is an animal wellness program under which farmers are given Nakul Swasth Patras, which is an animal health card with UID identification number of each animal registered in its national database. Also, ePashudhan Heart Portal. It is an online portal for connecting farmers with breeders of indigenous bovine breeds so that they can connect with each other for artificial insemination, indigenous breeds, etc. Moving on to National Dairy Plan. National Dairy Plan is a central sector scheme for being implemented by the National Dairy Development Board through its network of end implementing agencies, that is EIAs, for the period of 2011-12 to 2018-19. It is a scientifically planned multi-stage initiative to increase the productivity of milch animals, thereby increase milk production through scientific breeding and feeding, and to provide rural milk producers with greater access to organized milk processing sectors. Moving on to Dairy Entrepreneurship Development Scheme. This scheme was started in September 2010 with an objective to generate self-employment opportunities in the dairy sector in the country. This scheme is being implemented through NABARD, which provides financial assistance to commercially bankable projects like with loans from commercial, cooperative, urban, rural banks with a bank-ended capital subsidy of 25% of the project cost to the beneficiaries of general category and 33.33% of the project cost to SC and ST beneficiaries. Moving on to Dairy Processing and Infrastructure Development Fund. To ensure that dairy cooperative remains competitive for the sustained benefit of farmers, the Government of India has created a dairy processing Infrastructure Development Fund under NABARD with a corpus of 8,000 crore rupees over a period of 3 years, that is from 2017-18 to 2019-20. Funding will be in the form of interest bearing loan, which will flow from NABARD to National Cooperative Development Corporations and in turn to eligible end borrowers. Now, National Dairy Development Board. The National Dairy Development Board is an institution of national importance set up by an Act of Parliament. The main office is in Anand, Gujarat, with regional offices throughout the country. Now, the board was created to finance and support producers, owned and controlled organizations. Its program and activities seeks to strengthen farmer cooperatives and support national policies that are favorable to the growth of such institutions. Now, cooperative principles and cooperative strategies are fundamental to the board's efforts. The end borrowers of the scheme are milk unions, state dairy federations, multi-state milk cooperatives, milk producer companies. National Dairy Development Board subsidiary meetings the eligibility criteria under the project. The loan component would be 80%, that is maximum, and the end borrower's contribution would be 20%, which is minimum. Now, the end borrowers would get loan at 6.5% per annum, and the period of repayment would be 10 years with initial 2 years moratorium. Now, while Operation Flood was a success, it is high time that we move towards achieving a second white revolution to overcome supply side and demand side challenges. Supply side challenges includes the subsidiary nature of dairy farming, stagnant yield, rising feed and fodder costs, and a shift in rural areas towards to other occupations. Demand side challenges due to blooming population and the fact that current level of yield would not be able to cope up with the rising demand. For achieving second white revolution, steps which can be undertaken include setting up large-scale dairy farms, developing community ownership and management of common infrastructure for housing, breeding, feeding, milking under a cooperative producer company model. Genetic improvement of indigenous breeds, providing technical supports like veterinary care, feed management and training to livestock farmers, providing cheap credit to dairy farmers so that they can invest in latest technologies like artificial insemination. Now, Economic Survey of 2019 recommends that farmers should focus on small ruminants, that is sheep and goats, as they have higher survival rates under drought conditions compared to bovines and can even live on shrubs and trees. Moving on to fisheries sectors, India is the second largest fish producer in the world and the majority of our production comes from inland fishery sectors. Now, fishery sectors provide employment to around 14.5 million people, income and livelihood to poor fishermen, export opportunities, and nutrition to a large section of our population. However, the fisheries sector faces a large number of challenges in India, like indiscriminate fishing leads to a decline in fish population. Climate change and associated negative environment consequences, along with water pollution, has led to a severe loss of fish habitat, example, bleaching of coral reefs, inadequate supply of seed, feed, and genetic resources, limited private sector investment in this sector, inadequate cold storage infrastructure necessary to preserve and increase shelf life of fishes, lack of reliable database relating to aquatic and fisheries resources, weak marketing and extension network, weak linkages between R&D and D and fish farmer community leading to a limited number of species grown and cultured. Now, old technology like use of traditional vessels instead of motorized fishing vessels have led to low catch rates. To overcome the above challenges, Department of Fisheries has initiated the Blue Revolution for tapping the full potential of inland and marine culture of fisheries of the country by developing it as a professional modern world-class industry. Objectives of Blue Revolution include to fully tap into the total fish potential of the country, both inland and marine sector, and triple the production by 2020. Now, it also wants to transform the fisheries sector as a modern industry with special focus on new technologies and processes. It wants to double the income of fishers and fish farmers with special focus on increasing productivity and better marketing post harvest infrastructure, including e commerce and other technologies and global best innovations. It also wants to ensure inclusive participations of fishers and fish farmers in income enhancement. It wants to triple the export earnings by 2020 with focus on benefit flows to fishers and fish farmers, including through institutional mechanisms in cooperative producer companies and other structures. It wants to enhance food and national nutritional security of the country. Now, the Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare, Department of Animal Husbandry, Dairying and Fisheries has been restructured the scheme by merging all the ongoing schemes under an umbrella of Blue Revolution. Now, the restructured scheme provides focused development and management of fisheries, covering inland fisheries, aquaculture, marine fisheries, including deep sea fishing, mariculture, and all activities undertaken by National Fisheries Development Board. Now, the Blue Revolution scheme has the following components, which includes National Fisheries Development Board and its activities, development of inland fisheries and aquaculture, development of marine fisheries infrastructure and post-harvest operations, strengthening database and geographical information system of fisheries sector, institutional arrangement for fisheries sector, monitoring, control and surveillance and other need-based interventions, national scheme for welfare of fishermen. Now, National Policy on Marine Fishery 2070, the policy intends to guide the coordination and management of marine fishery in the country during the next 10 years. It envisions to create a healthy and active marine fishery sector which can fulfill the necessities of present and future generations. The policy states that private investments will be promoted in deep sea fishing and processing to fully harness the potential of marine fishery for inclusive development. Sustainable utilization of deep sea fisheries resources necessitates an optimal fleet size of modern fishing vehicles capable of undertaking extended voyages, and whenever required, support the overseas technology will also be considered for the development of the sector. Now, legislation will be brought to economically empower the producer cooperatives and the right of first sale option to be given to fishermen. Moving on to Fisheries and Aquaculture Infrastructure Development Fund, FIDF envisages creation of fisheries infrastructure facilities both in marine and inland fishery sectors and augment fish production to achieve target of 15 million tons by 2020. Set up under the Blue Revolution, it provides concessional finance to the eligible entities, cooperatives, individuals, and entrepreneurs for development of identified fisheries infrastructure. Now, NABARD, NCDC, and all scheduled banks are nodal loaning entities will provide concessional finance under FIDF. The Department of Fisheries, Ministry of Fisheries, Animal Husbandry and Dairy under FIDF provides interest subvention of up to 3% per annum for providing concessional finance by NLEs at interest rate not lower than 5% per annum. Now, owing to its massive coastline of 8,000 kilometers approximately, vast network of rivers, fisheries have always played a significant role in India's economy. Despite its potential, this sector with untapped potential, however, Blue Revolution will enable us to realize the vision of Prime Minister to double our fish production transform Matsya Sampada with Matsya Sampridhi by creating wealth and prosperity in the fishing community. This is a good conclusion in answers. Moving on, National Beekeeping and Honey Mission is a central sector scheme for overall promotion and development of scientific beekeeping and production of quality honey and other beehive products. It was launched considering importance of beekeeping and to achieve goal of sweet revolution. Currently, India ranks 8th in the world in terms of honey production. The mission has three components, that is, production and productivity improvement of various crops through pollination, post harvest management of beekeeping and beehive products, research and technology generations for different agroclimatic and socio-economic conditions. Under this, National Bee Board has trained 30 lakh farmers in beekeeping. That'll be it.